Nothing is quite as disruptive to galactic order as a mislabeled USB drive, especially one marked Definitive Summary of Planetary Death Worlds, Top Secret. This specific drive, meant to be secured within the Coalition Universal's Department of Hazardous Phenomena's impenetrable archives, had somehow found its way into the presentation console at the 47th Galactic Conference on Planetary Exploration. The moment the file was accessed, a disconcerting holographic banner unfurled above the main stage, Earth, Class 13 Death World. A cheerful, almost childlike, alien narrator began to speak, his tone reminiscent of educational programs for younglings. "Greetings, esteemed explorers," he chirped, to a complete overview of the galaxy's most perilous planet. "Kindly remain seated, premature departure may lead to unintended consequences." The conference hall, filled with representatives from some of the universe's most sophisticated civilizations, responded with a collective gasp, so powerful it momentarily generated an artificial weather pattern. The aquatic Clark's delegates began to hyperventilate inside their protective helmets, while the pranan, a sentient moss species, wilted simultaneously. "This is preposterous." Zor Tala, a towering reptilian diplomat, whose four eyes bulged in disbelief, sputtered. "There must be some mistake, a malfunction. Earth? That small, undeveloped world?" But the hologram continued, the narrator oblivious to the rising panic. "Earth, also known as Terra," he droned on, "is a Class 13 Death World, a rare classification reserved for planets so hostile that mere existence there defies logic. Hazards include volatile weather patterns, aggressive megafauna, and the local population itself." The inhabitants. Nablat, an ambassador from the gelatinous Sincari, exclaimed. "They live?" The hologram helpfully displayed footage of humans skiing down an active volcano, laughing, another of a surfer nonchalantly riding a tsunami, and a montage of humans willingly engaging in boxing matches, extreme eating competitions, and something called Black Friday shopping. The final clip featured a human calmly grappling with what the narrator identified as a crocodile, though the audience suspected it was a prehistoric predator. The hall had become a symphony of shrieks, moans, and the occasional thud of a fainting attendee. Ambassador Zil of the gaseous Folic drifted towards the podium, his vaporous form darkening with indignation. "How," he boomed, "has this species not perished?" As if answering, the hologram transitioned to a slide titled Human Ingenuity, a Paradox. Despite their planet's hostility, the narrator explained, humans have achieved a mastery of survival through what experts describe as a perplexing combination of chance, tenacity, and reckless innovation. The leaked file continued, showcasing examples of this baffling human ingenuity. For instance, the narrator chirped, they willingly ingest beverages like coffee, a concoction so potent it could dissolve less robust life forms. Images flashed of humans cheerfully downing espresso, seemingly unfazed. They traverse oceans teeming with apex predators, the narrator continued, and refer to these excursions as vacations. Footage of humans swimming with sharks and whales flickered across the screen. Moreover, the narrator added, they routinely engage in simulated combat purely for entertainment. The hologram displayed scenes from various martial arts tournaments and video game competitions. The narrator paused dramatically. Humans do not merely survive on their death world, he concluded, they appear to flourish. A stunned silence blanketed the conference hall. This wasn't the quiet of understanding, but the shocked, bewildered silence of beings who had profoundly misjudged something utterly extraordinary. Finally, a delegate from the nebula cluster raised a trembling appendage. We should destroy it," he stammered, "the planet, before they leave it." That's when the arguments began. "Destroy it? Are you insane?" another delegate countered. "They've clearly attained sentience, even if their methods are unconventional." "Sentient? They're barbaric," another voice boomed. "Barbaric, but ingenious," a different representative argued. "They've weaponized flightless birds." "That was a movie, you imbecile." The debate intensified, voices overlapping in a confused clamor of fear and fascination. One particularly dramatic, squid-like delegate rose and began reciting poetry about the futility of existence, which, frankly, only added to the chaos. Meanwhile, on the edge of the room, a janitor accidentally bumped a cleaning bot into the refreshment table, sending snacks flying. No one noticed. They were far too preoccupied debating whether Earth was a galactic threat or a cosmic absurdity. The leaked file continued, showcasing instances of this baffling human ingenuity. They willingly imbibe liquids such as coffee, the narrator chirped, a brew so strong it could disintegrate lesser organisms. Images flashed across the screen of humans happily consuming espresso, seemingly impervious to its effects. They navigate vast oceans teeming with top-tier predators, the narrator went on, and casually refer to these expeditions as holidays. Footage of humans swimming alongside sharks and whales flickered on the display. Furthermore, the narrator added, they regularly participate in simulated combat purely for amusement. The hologram showed scenes from assorted martial arts tournaments and video game competitions. The narrator paused for dramatic effect. Humans don't just survive on their death world, he declared, they seem to positively thrive there. A stunned quiet fell over the conference hall. It wasn't the silence of comprehension, but the shocked, bewildered quiet of beings who had gravely miscalculated something truly remarkable. At last, a representative from the nebula cluster lifted a quivering appendage. We should annihilate it, he stammered, the planet, before they escape. And then the squabbling commenced. Annihilate it? Have you lost your mind? Another delegate retorted. They've clearly reached sentience, even if their methods are unorthodox. Sentient? They're savages, another voice boomed. Savage, but resourceful, a different representative argued. They've weaponized flightless avian creatures. That was a motion picture, you moron. The argument escalated, voices overlapping in a chaotic clamor of apprehension and captivation. A particularly theatrical, cephalopod-like delegate stood and began reciting verse about the pointlessness of existence, which, honestly, only worsened the pandemonium. In the meantime, near the edge of the room, a maintenance worker unintentionally bumped a cleaning robot into the refreshment area, sending snacks scattering everywhere. Nobody even registered it. They were all far too engrossed in debating whether Earth posed a galactic menace or a cosmic farce. The leaked file then shifted to a segment showcasing examples of this perplexing human ingenuity. Observe, the narrator chirped, they willingly imbibe liquids like coffee, a concoction so potent it could dissolve lesser organisms. Images of humans happily downing espresso, seemingly unaffected, flashed across the screen. They navigate vast oceans teeming with apex predators, the narrator continued, and casually refer to these expeditions as holidays or vacations. Footage of humans swimming alongside sharks and whales flickered on the holographic display. Furthermore, the narrator added, they regularly participate in simulated combat purely for recreational purposes. The hologram displayed scenes from various martial arts tournaments and video game competitions. The narrator paused for dramatic effect. Humans don't merely endure their death world, he proclaimed, they seem to positively thrive there. An unnerving silence descended upon the conference hall. It wasn't the silence of comprehension, but the stunned, bewildered silence of beings who had profoundly miscalculated something truly extraordinary. Finally, a representative from the nebula cluster raised a trembling appendage. We should obliterate it, he stammered, the planet, before they escape. And with that, the contentious debate began. Obliterate it? Are you out of your mind? Another delegate retorted. They've clearly achieved sentience, even if their methods are unconventional. Sentient? They're barbaric, another voice boomed across the hall. Barbaric, but resourceful, countered a different representative. They've weaponized flightless avian creatures. That was a motion picture, you imbecile. The argument escalated, voices overlapping in a chaotic cacophony of apprehension and captivation. One particularly flamboyant, cephalopod-like delegate stood and began dramatically reciting poetry about the meaninglessness of existence, which, to be honest, only amplified the pandemonium. Meanwhile, near the perimeter of the room, a sanitation worker inadvertently bumped a cleaning robot into the refreshment station, scattering snacks everywhere. Nobody noticed. They were far too engrossed in debating whether Earth posed a galactic threat or a cosmic anomaly. The leaked file then transitioned to a section illustrating examples of this perplexing human ingenuity. For example, the narrator chirped, "They willingly consume beverages like coffee, a substance so strong it could disintegrate lesser life forms." Images of humans cheerfully imbibing espresso, seemingly unaffected by its potency, flashed across the screen. They navigate vast oceans teeming with apex predators, the narrator continued, and refer to these excursions as vacations for holidays. Footage of humans swimming alongside sharks and whales flickered on the holographic display. Moreover, the narrator added, they regularly engage in simulated combat purely for recreational purposes. The hologram displayed scenes from various martial arts tournaments and video game competitions. The narrator paused for dramatic effect. Humans don't just endure their death world, he declared, they seem to positively flourish. A stunned quiet descended upon the conference hall. This wasn't the silence of comprehension, but the shocked, bewildered quiet of beings who had gravely miscalculated something truly extraordinary. Finally, a representative from the nebula cluster raised a trembling appendage. We should obliterate it, he stammered, the planet, before they escape. With that, the contentious debate began. Obliterate it? Are you out of your mind? Another delegate retorted. They've clearly achieved sentience, even if their methods are unconventional. Sentient? They're barbaric, another voice boomed across the hall. Barbaric, but resourceful, countered a different representative. They've weaponized flightless avian creatures. That was a motion picture, you imbecile. The argument escalated, voices overlapping in a chaotic cacophony of apprehension and fascination. A particularly flamboyant, cephalopod-like delegate stood and began dramatically reciting poetry about the meaninglessness of existence, which, frankly, only amplified the pandemonium. Meanwhile, near the perimeter of the room, a sanitation worker inadvertently bumped a cleaning robot into the refreshment station, scattering snacks everywhere. Nobody noticed. They were far too engrossed in debating whether Earth posed a galactic threat or a cosmic anomaly. As the chaos continued, the leaked file proceeded to highlight further examples of this baffling human ingenuity. They willingly consume beverages such as coffee, the narrator chirped, his voice still carrying that unnervingly cheerful tone, a liquid so potent it could dissolve less robust life forms. Images flashed across the screen of humans happily consuming espresso, apparently impervious to its effects. They navigate vast oceans filled with apex predators, the narrator continued, and refer to these excursions as vacations or holidays. Footage of humans swimming with sharks and whales flickered on the holographic display. Moreover, the narrator added, they regularly engage in simulated combat purely for entertainment. The hologram showed scenes from various martial arts tournaments and video game competitions. The narrator paused for dramatic effect. Humans do not merely endure their death world, he declared, they appear to thrive in it. The room fell deathly silent. This wasn't the silence of understanding, no. This was the shocked, dumbfounded silence of beings realizing they had gravely miscalculated something truly extraordinary. Finally, a delegate from the nebula cluster raised a trembling appendage. We should destroy it, he stammered, the planet, before they leave it. That was the spark that ignited the already volatile situation. Destroy it? Are you mad? Another delegate countered. They've clearly achieved sentience, even if their methods are unconventional. Sentient? They're barbaric, another voice boomed across the hall. Barbaric, but ingenious, a different representative argued. They've weaponized flightless birds. That was a movie, you imbecile. The debate raged on, voices overlapping in a cacophony of panic, fear and bewilderment. A particularly dramatic, cephalopod-like delegate stood up and began dramatically reciting poetry about the futility of existence, which, frankly, only added to the chaos. Meanwhile, on the edge of the room, a janitor accidentally bumped a cleaning bot into the refreshment table, scattering snacks everywhere. No one even noticed. They were all far too busy arguing over whether Earth was a galactic threat or simply a cosmic joke. Just as the debate reached a fever pitch, the doors to the grand chamber slid open with a soft hiss. Entering the hall with a cheerful, yet distinctly human voice, a figure called out, "Wow, what a turnout!" I didn't expect the Earth delegation to warrant this much excitement. You folks really rolled out the red carpet. The entire room froze. Hundreds of alien eyes, tentacles, and other sensory organs slowly turned towards the entrance. Standing there, with a confident grin and a massive thermos labeled World's Okayest Diplomat, was Harold J. Finnegan, Earth's freshly appointed ambassador to the Coalition Universal. Blissfully unaware of the escalating panic, Harold strode into the room with the casual air of a seasoned traveler, a worn leather briefcase in one hand, waving enthusiastically with the other. "Hi there. Sorry I'm late," he said. "Traffic around Alpha Centauri, am I right?" No one laughed. Harold scanned the room, taking in the diverse array of species, from towering insectoids to shimmering gelatinous blobs. "Wow," he said, shaking his head. "You've got all the big names here. Clarks, Flicks, even a Pullian moss patch. This is like a living nature documentary." Is that one of them?" Zill whispered, retreating behind a stack of holographic notes as if they offered protection. "I believe so," Zala murmured, gripping his chair tightly. "The hairless one. Notice the small teeth. Carnivorous. Clearly." Meanwhile, Harold reached the podium, setting down his thermos and briefcase. He leaned into the microphone. "All right, let's get this show on the road. I've got a pretty tight schedule, and the wife will have my hide if I miss our anniversary. She's a stickler for punctuality." Silence. Dead, awkward silence. Somewhere in the back, a Clark's delegate whispered, "They mate for life," with a tone of pure existential dread. Unfazed, Harold opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of laminated note cards. "Now, I understand there's been some confusion about Earth. Lucky for you, I'm here to set the record straight. I even brought visuals." He pressed a button, and a holographic image of Earth appeared behind him. "Here we are. The third rock from the sun. A cozy little planet with everything you need: water, breathable air, and about a dozen ways to die every day. But hey, we call that character building." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Harold, oblivious, continued, flipping through his cards. "Now, I know some of you have concerns. Let me assure you, Earth isn't *** dangerous. Sure, we've got hurricanes, tornadoes, the occasional volcano, but who doesn't, right? It's like having a spirited pet, you just learn to avoid the nips." Zill raised a trembling pseudopod. And the predators? The ones in the recordings? How do you manage them?" "Oh, you mean the bears? Yeah, they can be a bit much. But we've got a system. Bear spray, bells, and if all else fails, yelling really loud usually does the trick." The room stared in stunned silence. Harold, mistaking their shock for admiration, puffed up his chest. "And let's not forget our oceans, home to some of the most amazing creatures in the galaxy. Sharks, for example. Did you know they've been around for 400 million years? Amazing, right? We swim with them all the time. No biggie." "No biggie?" Nablat screeched, practically melting under the table. "Exactly," Harold said, giving a thumbs up. "Now, let's talk weather. Hurricanes? Think of them as nature's way of telling you to stay inside. Tornadoes? Free air conditioning if you're quick enough." He chuckled. "Earthquakes? Well, those keep things interesting. Like a surprise party, but for buildings." It was at this point that Zor-Tala muttered, "We're doomed," and fainted, his enormous frame collapsing with a resounding thud. Harold glanced down, concerned. "Is he okay? Do you guys have medics, or some space Tylenol?" Before anyone could respond, Harold clapped his hands together. "Anyway, I'm getting off track. What I'm saying is, Earth's not dangerous, it's just lively. You just need the right attitude, and maybe some sturdy boots."